Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Bodyguard Affair by Anna Stone and Hildred Billings. Narrated by Abby Craden. Chapter 1. Sometimes the most luxurious apartment in the city felt more like a prison, or so Bianca's dramatic imagination told her as she lay strewn across her couch, scrolling idly through her phone. Sure, she had an apartment at the top of Seattle's Black Diamond building, with a view of Mount Rainier, and more than a few amenities at her doorstep. And sure, she had heated floors, a jacuzzi tub in her bathroom, and 2 more bedrooms than she would ever know what to do with. Most girls her age would kill to be where she was. But that didn't change the fact that every time she stepped out of her apartment, she was sorely reminded that, despite being 22 years old, everyone still thought of her as a child who couldn't take care of herself. She rolled over on her couch, phone dangling from her hand as she motioned to the brown tabby cat on the other side of her living room. "At least I've you to keep me company." Spike, the furry little terror who Bianca now called her own, after a failed attempt at fostering, cried out for food he knew he wasn't due yet. When Bianca showed no sign of giving in, he simply sat down and began grooming himself. She sighed and stared at her ceiling. She could almost feel her nosy mother's eyes on her through it. That was what really made her apartment feel like a prison. Bianca had her own place, which she could decorate as she liked and have anyone over that she wanted, but she was still under the metaphorical and literal ass of her mother, who occupied the building's penthouse, the Black family home. Only a few years ago, Bianca had lived up there too. Out of the 3 sisters who had grown up in the penthouse, hers was the only childhood bedroom that had remained untouched after moving out. Oldest sister Scarlett's room was now their mother's office and reception space. Middle child Parker's old room had been transformed into a swanky guest suite that often housed American business royalty and foreign dignitaries. Bianca's room? No matter how many times her mother talked about making it into the fitness room, complete with gym equipment and yoga nook, Bianca knew it would never happen. Her mom kept that room pristine, a shrine to her youngest daughter's babyhood, awaiting the day Bianca would travel back in time and become a preteen again. "Meow!" Spike hopped up onto Bianca's chest, staring straight into her face and heaving hot cat breath against her skin. "Meow! It's not your dinner time." But to Spike, it never mattered how far away dinner was. It should happen now. Bianca kept his claws trimmed, but he still found ways to dig them through her sweatshirts and get straight to her sensitive flesh. "Somebody save me," she murmured. "My cat's going to kill and eat me." Given how wild and bad-tempered Spike had been before Bianca adopted him, it probably wouldn't have surprised anyone if he did just that. Instead, he settled against her chest, purring furiously. Bianca gave the top of his head a scratch. "I've got myself. I've got my cat. I have everything a girl could ever want." But there was something sorely missing from Bianca's world. No, not something. Someone. Someone who gave her a reason to wake up in the morning and face the day. Someone who would hold her when she was happy or sad, or for no reason at all. Someone who saw her for the grown, educated woman she was, not the spoiled, sheltered youngest daughter of the richest family in Seattle. That was all that mattered to her. She didn't care about anything else. Not looks, not class, not money, and not gender. Her mother might have something to say about that. She could probably come around to the idea of her baby falling in love, as long as it was with the right person. Well-bred, polite, educated, attractive, male. So far, the Black sisters were 2 for 3 on the Sapphic scoreboard. Parker had been out and proud lesbian for as long as Bianca could remember. Her oldest and most responsible sister had recently dumped her trophy fiancé and hooked up with an employee from one of the family's companies. A girl, no less. Only a year or 2 older than Bianca. That left the Black family matriarch placing all her hopes on Bianca. At least she would end up with a man. She would have the picture-perfect heterosexual marriage that her mother had always wanted for all her daughters. There was one problem with that. While Bianca had never explicitly mentioned it to anyone in her family, she had always liked girls. No, not girls. Women. Strong women who didn't take prisoners. But unlike her older sisters, Bianca never once questioned what that meant for her. Was she gay, bi, pansexual? Some other flavor of definitely not straight. It didn't matter to her. She liked who she liked, and that was it. But right now, with her mother hovering over her every time she so much as coughed, having a relationship of any kind was impossible. It was one of the many reasons behind Bianca's plan to move to California. It was about as different from Seattle as America could get while staying in the same time zone. In California, the weather was always perfect. Not like Seattle, which boasted rain and gloom for most of the year. In California, my mom can't breathe down my neck. The open skies and vast sea called to Bianca, and so did her independence. Grad school was the easiest way to convince her family to let her move. Her father probably wouldn't care, not as much as her mother, who had pitched a fit back when Bianca was in high school and looking at universities out of state. In the end, she'd stayed in Seattle because she was only 18 and not confident enough to stand up to her mother. Now that Bianca was in her 20s, she could take her mother on, but she needed a solid plan. Her phone buzzed beside her. While Spike stretched out and yawned in her chest, Bianca eased him off her body and picked up her phone to read the text message she'd received. "Speak of the devil. Come up to the house as soon as you can. There's something important I need to talk to you about." Bianca pressed the heels of her hands against her eyelids. Only her mother referred to the family penthouse as the house, and as soon as you can meant right now. But Bianca would wait a few more minutes. Anything to delay subjecting herself to her mother. When Vivian Black greeted her daughter at the entryway, pale-faced and uncharacteristically sober in more ways than one, Bianca briefly wondered if someone had died. Why did my mind go straight to Parker? It didn't help that there were two big men in suits and sunglasses sitting on the couch in the front living room. Both of them turned and looked in Bianca's direction when she entered, her slippers slapping against the hardwood floors as she dragged her fingers through her blonde curls. "What's going on?" she asked. Her mother took her by the hand and drew her to the large armchair, perching on the arm as Bianca sat down in the seat. The chair was as old as Bianca herself. It was one of the few pieces of furniture her mother hadn't swapped out at all over the years. Probably because Bianca declared it as hers as a child, often falling asleep in it while watching movies or reading a book as her father perused the paper and her mother scrolled through an iPad. To Bianca, that had been peak bonding time between her and her father, who was often too busy with work to give much attention to his children. Her mother, on the other hand, her children were her whole life, Bianca in particular. "You had me worried," Vivian said. "What took you so long? I almost came down there myself." Bianca knew better than to roll her eyes around her mother. "I was snoozing on my couch when you messaged me. I came as soon as I could." "You were sleeping? Have you been getting enough rest? Are you watching your—" "Mom!" Bianca nodded toward the men on the couch. "Why did you call me up here?" Vivian released her daughter's hand. "Bianca, I want you to meet Trevor and Brent. They're representatives of Rainier Protection Services, the best personal security firm in Seattle. They're going to be assessing the building, along with other locations we frequent, in order to optimize security." Bianca glanced between her mother, who kept her prim lips sealed, and the men in suits. Trevor and Brent were likewise professional, as they looked back at her, a girl who was a quarter of their size. "Why are you reassessing security?" she asked. "Has something happened?" Although her mother's posture tightened, she didn't respond immediately. When she finally did, it was with a pat of Bianca's knee and the fake smile that always heralded a wave of carefully crafted words designed to mask some truth she felt Bianca couldn't handle. "It's nothing you need to worry about. Put simply, it's come to the attention of your father and me that we have some holes in our family security. We've contracted Rainier to reassess things and assign personnel to each of us for the foreseeable future." "What do you mean to each of us?" Bianca did not like where this was headed. "It's only for a little while," her mother assured her, "until those holes are patched and we are sure any security threats have passed." "You're not making any sense." Bianca looked at the men sitting across from her, understanding dawning on her. "You're giving me a bodyguard?" "It's only temporary, honey." Bianca leaped out of the chair. "No, no way. I'm already living under your thumb 1 floor below you, and now you want some big burly dude watching me all day? No, absolutely not." "We are professionals, Miss Black," said Trevor. or was it Brent? The men were identical, and they both looked like slabs of meat that had grown legs. We believe in maintaining your right to privacy while also protecting you, whether you're at home, work, or school. Mom! I'm sorry, sweetheart, but there's no way around it. Your father and I will not feel safe with you running around town alone. God knows who nipping at your heels. Vivian clasped her hand over her chest. Was she about to cry? This is nuts. Are Parker and Scarlett getting tailed too? Are you extending this same courtesy to their girlfriends? Vivian stiffened at the mention of her other daughter's female partners, although she kept any comments about the matter to herself for once. If the security company deems it necessary, but Scarlett and Parker are old enough to secure their own protection. It's you I'm mostly worried about. You have got to be kidding me. How is Bianca supposed to bring up moving to California and gain some semblance of independence now? Her mother was smothering her with big, beefy men, all in the name of protecting her. And from what? No. Just no. Vivian pushed herself to her feet. This is not open for discussion, Bianca. What the hell is going on? Bianca threw her hands up. This is crazy. Even for you. A bodyguard? You've never done something like this before. Not unless I was traveling. It was the only way her mother had ever let her leave the country. But now she couldn't even leave her apartment unless she was under guard. You won't even know we're there, one of the men said. Bianca put her hands on her hips. I will not have some man I don't even know following me around. I can't believe you of all people are even suggesting this. Her mother was a woman who questioned every young man to come sniffing around her precious daughter. Fortunately, she'd been oblivious to the young women. Not that there had been many of those, to Bianca's disappointment. Well, I'm assured that Rainier Protection Services has plenty of capable people on their roster. You can choose someone from it yourself. Would you stop acting like a brat if I let you pick out your own bodyguard? Bianca huffed. But her mother had extended an olive branch, and when it came to her freedom, Bianca had long learned to take a mile whenever an inch was presented to her. Yes, I would most definitely like to hire my own bodyguard. Someone I've at least looked in the eye first. Fine. Vivian clasped her hands in front of her. We'll have these nice gentlemen arrange for you to meet with their superior and discuss options. You're like our boss, one of the men said. Bianca decided that the taller one with half a goatee was Brent. He looked like a Brent. She really knows her stuff. Whip smart, too. Their boss was a woman? Perhaps a strong, commanding female bodyguard was something Bianca could get on board with. In the meantime, I don't feel comfortable with you going out as usual, her mother said. Invite your friends over if you want, but... Seriously? I'm in my 20s. I just graduated from college, and you're basically trying to ground me? This is bullshit. Watch your language, please. Bianca bit back a retort. Instead, with a pivot of her foot, she began her march out of the Black family home. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, honey, her mother called behind her. Don't forget to get enough rest. Are you eating properly? You know you have to be careful with your condition and all. Bianca stopped halfway to the front door. She almost turned around to give her mom another piece of her mind, but it wasn't worth it. The tense conversation had already drained all her energy, and now she had to pick out a bodyguard to assuage her mother's paranoia, because it was just paranoia. It had to be. Her mother was just being dramatic and overprotective as usual. She had nothing to worry about, and neither did Bianca. So why did she feel a growing hint of unease as she returned to her apartment? Chapter 2. The trendy cafe in Capitol Hill was the kind of place Sam Reddy noticed on her morning runs and weekly errands, but it was not the kind of place she'd willingly enter and sit down in with a cup of $6 coffee. For one thing, Sam felt like the oldest person here. She was barely 30, yet when she looked around the cafe named Highlight, stylized with quotes in all lowercase lettering, she couldn't discern who was a 20-year-old college student and who was a 50-year-old hipster with perfect skin they paid out the nose for. Even if she wasn't the oldest person in the room, she was definitely the most overdressed. But she was used to that. For every client who wanted to meet in an upscale restaurant or their corporate office tower, there was someone like Bianca Black who suggested a place like Highlight, a place that offered 10 different kinds of not milk. Fortunately, Sam took her coffee black. She'd been nursing it since she arrived. It was now 10 minutes past the time her meeting with Bianca had been due to start. yet Bianca was nowhere to be found. She scanned the cafe on the off chance that she'd missed the woman's arrival, but Sam was good at her job. She hadn't missed anything. All that looking around the cafe did was remind her of how much she stood out. Between Seattle's lack of skin tone diversity and the cafe's penchant for high-waisted jeans and crop sweatshirts, South Asian Samhita Reddy, sitting underneath a neon kombucha sign while armored in her suit and hard demeanor, might as well have advertised herself as outsider for hire. She was surrounded by 3 different groups of Gen Z teens taking selfies of themselves every 3 minutes. Bonus points for their drinks actually making it into the shot. She returned her eyes to the entrance, locking her attention on it like any bodyguard who knew her worth. Alertness was Sam's default state. Preparedness was second nature to her. Yet when the cafe door jingled open, she was wholly unprepared for the sight of Bianca Black, fashionably late heiress. Sam knew what Bianca looked like, of course. Several photos had been provided to her, courtesy of Vivian Black, and as always, Sam had done her research online and on social media. But the photos and videos didn't do the young beauty justice. Waist-length curly hair, as pale as it was golden, was gathered in a loose ponytail at the top of Bianca's delicate shoulders. A sheer kimono did little to cover the strapless dress beneath. Her chunky-heeled sandals and perfectly pink toenails reminded Sam that, for many in the world, the day was bright, warm, and sunny, unlike her world, which was always consummately professional and a little sweaty, or very sweaty. The suits didn't disappear in the summer. As Bianca removed her rose-gold sunglasses, their gazes met. But the young woman didn't yet join Sam at the table beneath the neon kombucha sign. She turned toward the barista, who greeted her with a nonchalant hello while making a valiant attempt not to ogle his customer, because Sam's client knew how to dress to impress and attract. Sam was dangerously close to ogling Bianca, too. The mesmerizing swish of the dress, her tanned legs peeking out from under it, her svelte hips like those. They would be the death of Sam. Control yourself, Reddy. You're a professional. She arranged her things on the table, from her phone to her cup of cooling coffee, ensuring everything was in its rightful place. Maintaining order was a habit she developed during her time in the Air Force. She'd served for 6 years before going into personal security, and many of the skills she'd learned in the Air Force had carried over to her career of choice. They had helped her immensely when she started her own company only a few years ago. Since then, it had grown to become one of the most successful security firms in the Seattle area. But there had been plenty of bumps in the road along the way. One in particular, which had caused her to lose confidence in herself in ways not even her mother could achieve. No, not going there. That job was in the past. She had enough to focus on in the present. Like the girl in a peacock-inspired dress who was heading Sam's way. "You must be from Rainier." Bianca's light melodic voice carried a hint of haughtiness. Sam stood up, extending her hand. But Bianca only planted herself in the seat across from her, setting a small juice on the table and slinging her cross-body purse around the back of her chair. Samhita Reddy, founder and CEO of Rainier Protection Services. When it became clear Bianca would not be shaking her hand, Sam sat back down. "You can call me Sam." "Samhita is a nice name." "Like I said, Sam is fine." She was slightly taken aback that Bianca had said her name with a near-flawless accent. She'd been called Samantha more times than she could count. But that wasn't the reason Sam didn't often go by her full name. She waited for Bianca to formally introduce herself, but the girl just leaned back in her chair, arms and legs crossed as she studied Sam's face. "I wasn't expecting the head of a premier security firm to be so young." Whether that was an insult or a compliment, Sam couldn't tell. It was exactly why she didn't often tell clients her age. As long as she got the job done, it didn't matter that she was only 30. But Bianca didn't give Sam a chance to reassure her of that fact. "Trevor and Brent made it sound like you're much older. My mother was under the impression that they'd be following me around all day, if you can believe that. I can't say that fits my aesthetic." Her aesthetic? Is she serious? Trevor and Brent are 2 of the best on my roster. They won't give you any grief as you go about your day. This I can assure you, Miss Black. "I don't care if they can do magic tricks on command. I don't want huge men following me everywhere, lurking outside my apartment door. I have a life to live." Bianca picked up her juice and took a hearty sip through the clear straw. "It's not my fault my mom is paranoid." It's like talking to a bratty teenager. She's not taking this seriously at all. But Sam's irritation did little to quench the other feelings she was experiencing toward Bianca Black, all of which were decidedly unprofessional. Her unapologetic uber-femininity appealed to some part of Sam, a part of her that she didn't often let speak. Attraction, desire, lust. She didn't have the time or patience for any of that. She had more important things to concern herself with, namely her business. And even if Sam was interested in a spoiled heiress like Bianca, she was far too young. A point made even more apparent by the bored look in the woman's eyes as she focused on her drink, sucking up the remainder of the glass's contents until loud bubbling sounds echoed from it. "While I can't comment on the specifics of the situation," Sam began, "your mother has reasons to believe that your family's security may have been compromised recently." That was all she could say, both because Vivian Black had explicitly requested that Rainier keep any details about the situation from her daughters, and because it was all Sam knew. She'd only met with the woman once, when Vivian hired Rainier. She'd had difficult meetings before, but that one topped them all. A middle-aged woman, makeup running down her face, begging Sam to take on her family's plight. Yet she'd been extremely tight-lipped about both her family and their plight. Perhaps there were good reasons for Vivian's protectiveness toward her youngest, but they were none of Sam's business. She offered protection services, not family counseling. It did make the job harder for Sam and her team, but they were professionals. They could deal with overly private clients. That said, I'm invested in finding a good match for you among my available roster. Did you have the chance to look at the suggestions I forwarded to your email address? Bianca stopped drinking her juice, but her focus was still on pushing her straw around the bottom of the glass. What is with her attitude? It was clear she thought Sam was barely worth her time. Was it generational? The wealth disparity? Sam's success with her own company meant she had plenty of wealth of her own, but she was self-made, and a far cry from Black Diamond rich. The type of people Rainier protected often lived in a different dimension than the common person. The Black family definitely fit that description. Sam cleared her throat. "If you'd rather have a woman assigned to you, we can make that happen. I currently have 2 women on my roster. Here." She pulled her iPad out of her briefcase. It instantly woke up to her personal list of employees, displaying their availabilities. Sam had anticipated that Bianca might want a female entourage, so she'd already highlighted Jenna and Iris, 2 competent team members who had extensive experience protecting the likes of sports stars and Hollywood celebrities. But Bianca barely glanced at the tablet. Instead, she set down her glass, her elbows on the table, and looked Sam in the eyes. "Why not you?" Sam blinked. "I'm sorry?" "You," Bianca repeated. "What about me?" Sam suddenly found herself distracted by the stray blonde curl bouncing against Bianca's cheek. Now she looked less like a pouty princess and more like the kind of sweet girl-next-door type that would have struck Sam in the heart when she was younger and still figuring out who she was and what she wanted. A thought rose up in her mind, unbidden. Her. I want her. Bianca folded her arms across her chest. "Isn't this why we're here? To discuss options? I looked at the options, and I've made my choice. I want you to be my bodyguard." Alarms began ringing in Sam's mind. One thing about the sweet girl-next-door types, they were always trouble. And Bianca Black with those tempting blonde ringlets, those coy brown eyes, she was trouble. Trouble Sam didn't need. "There's been some kind of misunderstanding," Sam said. "I'm not available for this job." "Why not? I read all about you on your website. Your credentials, your experience. You're the most competent person in your company. Your goons, Trevor and Brent, told me you're the best there is. And I want the best." Sam pulled the tablet back to her and attempted to scroll up, but her fingers were so damp that they slipped uselessly down the screen. Right now, she was more incompetent than any of the CEOs or celebrities she had protected over the years, and much more incompetent than Airman Jones, the one person in her Air Force unit who was so inept at what he did that he almost got 2 pilots killed. Feeling like Airman Jones was not a good thing, and all over a pretty face and the most delicious set of hips to have ever walked into her life. Sam straightened up and fixed her eyes firmly on Bianca. "Ms. Black, I am the owner of Rainier Protection. While I am experienced in personal protection, nowadays I only work in the background, liaising with clients, hiring and training the people on my team, making sure they're assigned to appropriate jobs. Only occasionally do I go back out in the field, usually when leading teams for big events, like political rallies or large-scale charity events. Even then, the most Sam did was give orders from whatever room she commandeered as her command center. If an issue popped up, she attended to it personally, but for the most part, her people did the grunt work she paid them to do, like the military, only with better suits. Sam set her hands on the table, palms down. I don't do solo work anymore. Bianca's eyes narrowed slightly. I see. Silence hung between them. Sam could feel the young woman's disappointment radiating across the table, but she ignored it. She didn't do solo work anymore for a good reason. In order to do her job properly, she needed to keep a distance from her clients, and she couldn't do that while working with them one-on-one. She learned that the hard way. It had almost cost someone she cared about their life. It was for her client's own good. She couldn't risk breaking that rule, not for anyone, and especially not for a demanding princess like Bianca Black, no matter how much those doe eyes and those plump pink lips asked her to. But as she stole a glance at the woman across from her, she found Bianca's face slightly pale, a glazed look in her eyes. Is everything all right, Miss Black? Bianca jerked to attention. Yes. She shook her head as if to steady herself. I'm sorry. I don't think this is going to work. If I have to have someone following me around all day, I'm only interested in the best. And I can confidently say that both women currently available on my roster are the best in Seattle. And here I thought that was you. Sam gritted her teeth. As I said, I don't do solo jobs. I'll insist that my mother hire some other security firm then, one that can actually give me the best. Go ahead, princess. It was taking all of Sam's willpower to remain polite and professional on the outside. On the inside, she was having all kinds of inappropriate thoughts about putting Bianca Black in her place. But as the young woman rose from her seat, readying to leave, Sam's skin prickled, the hairs on the back of her neck standing up. Something was off. She couldn't put her finger on what, but years of working in high-pressure situations had honed her instincts, and right now they were screaming that something was wrong. Sam tensed, poised and ready for whatever that something was. But Bianca was already collecting her bag from the chair. As she turned to leave, her legs shook slightly, her body swaying as she stared over the heads of the other patrons. Not a second later, Bianca collapsed. But Sam was already there. Golden curls splashed at her feet as she leaped out of her seat, catching Bianca's head before it hit the floor. Chapter 3. How are you feeling? The doctor glanced between Bianca and the chart bearing her name. Any headaches? Dizziness? She closed her eyes, hand on her forehead. The starchy sheet and thin blanket of the hospital bed were uncomfortably familiar, as was the room she was in. She was well acquainted with it. Given that her family's name was on this wing of the hospital, there was always a room available for one of the Blacks, especially if their name happened to be Bianca. Slight headache, she said. Nothing new. The doctor nodded. As he made a note, Bianca turned her head toward the large rectangular window overlooking the Seattle skyline. For a single second, her mind was elsewhere, flying high above those cirrus clouds and pretending she was scaling Mount Rainier. Ugh, Rainier! That was the name of the security company her mother had hired. The good news is that your blood sugar has returned to normal. I have no reason to keep you any longer. The doctor folded his clipboard against his stomach as he loomed over Bianca, whose hands curled around the blanket. But I'm rather surprised this happened, Bianca. Have you had a rise in stress levels recently? Where to begin? The never-ending family drama? The latest weirdness with my controlling mom? My constant desire to leave it all behind somewhere far, far away from here? Bianca hadn't considered herself stressed, but maybe she was heading in that direction. I guess I have been more stressed out than usual. And I haven't been sleeping well either. There's a lot going on in my life right now. The doctor gave her a sympathetic look. I know it's hard, but you have to be more careful, especially when you're under pressure. Psychological stress disturbs the body's metabolic processes. Bianca tuned him out. 15 years of type 1 diabetes? I know the drill by now. She could still recall the day she was diagnosed, mostly because her mother had collapsed in a fit of tears, convinced that it would be the death of her daughter. Even after the doctors had assured her that diabetes was perfectly manageable with diet and medication, She went through stints of crying and praying over Bianca. The woman wasn't even religious.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?